Hey, welcome back, how you all doing? I'm Wayne. Another Killteam video then. This time I want to look at the thing that makes Killteam so important, terrain. Now, we've looked at all of the basic rule set by now, and yeah, we've got a couple of things left to cover, but one of the most important things that we've not already covered is terrain and how important it is inside of the game. In this edition of Killteam, it is even more so. You get much more flavour to the game if you utilise all of the terrain rules. Now this is split into two different parts. We've got rules that are actually affecting the terrain, and we've got some additional movement rules that I've been asked a couple of times now to cover as addendum to the movement video that I did a while back. So let's jump into it, have a look at what we've got here. There's 6 different types of terrain in Killteam: heavy, light, insignificant, traversible, barricades, and vantage points. As we've done with the other rules, let's take a look at each one individually and have a look at some examples. Firstly, let's look at heavy terrain. Now, heavy terrain provides cover and is obscuring. This is really good for hiding behind and making sure you're out of the way of the enemy, providing really good cover, making you much harder to hit. There are a couple of different types of heavy terrain. Let's have a look at some examples and see what you think. Next, let's have a look at light terrain. Now, light terrain does provide cover, but doesn't have the obscuring trait. Again, let's have a look at some examples. Onto traversible terrain. Now, traversible terrain is something that causes a movement decrease. You can get over it, but it's going to cost you 1 circle to do so. This is great for slowing down the battlefield, making those wide open spaces a little bit more interesting to get across. Don't forget though, it's 1 circle to traverse over it. Insignificant terrain is exactly what it says on the tin. It's insignificant, it's fluff that you add to the battlefield that just gives you a little bit more context to where you are and what you're doing. You don't have to use it, but I'd strongly recommend you do. It makes the game more fun, more immersive, and really gets you into the action. Let's take a look at barricades then. Now if you picked up the Octarius box, you'll have got some barricades in that set. You can also purchase them separately from Games Workshop, or you can make your own, and I'd strongly recommend you do so. Now, barricades have both the light and traversible trait. The idea is they're easy to get across, but they do provide some sort of cover across the battlefield, especially on wider open ones. Let's have a look at some examples and see how you'd use them. And finally, we have vantage point. Again, that does what it says on the tin. It gives you an advantage over your enemy. If your enemy's in light cover, then they're treated as having an engage order, even if they don't. Having the vantage point is really, really good, especially if you've got a sniper, for instance. It's also worth noting that you can have multiple bits of terrain that have multiple keywords. We'll take a look at some examples before we finish up. In summary then, you should have a really good understanding now of the different types of terrain and how to use them. All of the different terrain traits and how that affects each bit of terrain in its own situation. If you did get some value out of this video guys, do me a solid, leave me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, what you'd like to see more of. If you've made it this far and you've not already, then maybe you should think about subscribing. It'd really help me out and grow the channel. Well guys, I hope you had a really good hobby week. I hope you've got a great week coming up, and remember, if you're going to do crack, make sure it's plastic. See ya!